Every 6 months we'd move. You know, when you were selling drugs, you moved regularly because people would know where you lived.
I remember when I was first arrested, I was living in a tin shed in a backyard with a pile of blankets for a bed. Police knew I was being abused, but they still returned me to the dangerous home after they arrested me. The system chose prosecution over protection.
Yeah. I remember another time being taken home by the police and being punched in the face in front of the police.
In front of the police.
You know, and that was acceptable. You know, because I was, like I said, I was a bad person.
It's not about getting tough on crime, it's getting smart on crime.
True. There's two things that will happen. You'll either really push back like I did, or you'll kill yourself.
Yeah, you'll just be completely broken. Lincoln Tarrow-Lynch's earliest memory was watching his dad get arrested and fight with police. When he was just 5 years old, police raided his home and his mum was put in prison. At 12, he was arrested for the first time. How do you think this story is going to end? Well, today I sit down with the man himself and we find out. Lincoln Tarrow-Lynch, welcome to I Catch Killers.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here.
Well,
I made it.
You made it.
I made it, yeah.
There's a lot of times that you wouldn't have been thinking that you're going to be sitting down talking on True Crime
definitely not.
podcast.
Definitely not, yeah.
Well, I saw you talk a couple of years ago at the, I think it was the end of year Rainbow Lodge event, which is attended by judges, politicians, and a whole range, cross-section of people. And I remember your story from there. It was very, very powerful. So looking forward to sitting down and speaking to you.
Thank you.
Youth crime. It seems to be on the front page of the papers and lead stories on the news across the country, not just here in New South Wales.
Yep.
And when you get that type of narrative, there's people that push back, going, we need tougher sentencing, we need crack down on youth crime, do an adult crime, do adult time.
I've heard that, yeah.
A lot of ways of approaching it. What's your sense in terms of youth crime? When you hear that, do you agree with it, or you think we're approaching it from the wrong?
I would definitely disagree with it.
Yeah.
But I understand why people would kind of react that way and why there is that reaction, because I guess it looks scary, you know, and when you see images in the media of, you know, the different crimes being committed and a lot of it's been video recorded, it's scary, you know, so, and people want to feel safe and I don't know, when you hear youth crime, I remember when I was a kid, it was always the youth. Youth were always being targeted as the people who to be scared of, and you know, I heard someone talk. It was actually on Vince talked yesterday about the stats on youth crime, and that they've actually gone down. But you know, the media would say otherwise, and politicians seem to say otherwise. So, and in terms of locking them up, it just doesn't work. You know.
Well, I know, and that's we're really going to dig into it with you about once you put someone in the system, it's very hard for them to break out of the system with that, and you've been there, so you could attest to that.
Yeah.
I saw the submission you made to the parliamentary inquiry. That was into youth justice and detention. And I think it was established last year. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that really resonated with me that you said in your submission that you put in was the system chose prosecution over protection.
Yeah.
And that really, it sort of hit me.
It's
in your
true.
Story, because I got a bit of an understanding of your story, chose prosecution over protection.
It's true.
Do you want to just break that down, where you were coming from with that? What's that?
Well, I guess it's in the way it's said. It's like, you know, you find a young person and they're having contact with the police because they've maybe committed a crime, or maybe they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. And then the reaction is to maybe arrest them, maybe whether that means they go into prison or not is another thing. But instead of like approaching them and saying, why is this kid doing this? Why are they behaving the way they are? Why is a 10 or 11-year-old running around so angry, you know, and breaking the law when other kids aren't doing that? And it's not because that kid's a bad person or they're a criminal at heart. It's because there's other things most likely going on at home, and they probably have been for a long time, and whether that's, you know, like stuff related to poverty, or whether it's related to like, you know, addiction at home maybe, or other factors that are meaning that this child doesn't have the same opportunities as other children, and their behaviours are a reflection of that. It's not that.
Well, I don't think children set out to be bad, do they?
Of course
they're
not.
not inherently
of course
bad.
not. Exactly.
You don't, you don't crawl out of the cot and go, I'm going to create havoc in this world. Yeah. You're shaped by your environment.
Absolutely.
And we all need the role models and parameters to point us in the right direction. So that's why prosecution over protection really made me think about the way we look at things. Like, in your situation that we're going to hear about, you needed protection.
Absolutely.
Prosecution wasn't what you needed someone to put an arm
and
around you and look after you and steer you in the right direction, and you didn't get that.
That's right.
Let's talk about your childhood. Where did you grow
up? So I grew up predominantly in Wollongong. Yep. A little bit of time in ACT, but most of my young life was in Wollongong.
Yeah. And what family environment, siblings, parents? Talk us through that.
So my dad was much older than my mum. Like when they got together, he was in his late 20s. She was 17, I think. Yeah. He'd been like, doing crime and stuff for some time, and kind of, met mum, and she fell pregnant with me. Yeah, she left him when I was pretty young. Yeah. Yep. And tried to sort of do things by herself. So I was mostly raised by her. It was just she and I most of the time. Yeah. She had boyfriends now and then. But she was a single mum growing up in the 80s when that was really frowned upon. Yeah. And she had no support from home either. So she did what she could to survive, and sadly that for her meant that she got tied up in the criminal world as well, and selling drugs and this kind of thing. So that was the environment I grew up in.
Yeah. And I've read about your first memory was your father being arrested. And fighting with police. That's your earliest childhood memory. Yeah. So that sort of would shape the way you think.
Definitely.
And then at the time, I think you were 5 when your mum got arrested and ended up getting put away for 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Did you have siblings?
No, it was just me and her. Yeah.
Okay. How, I'm trying to imagine that as a 5-year-old child. I look back at my children, how innocent they are at that age. Yeah. How did that make you feel?
It's hard for me to know how I felt at the time. I can think back to some of my behaviours at the time and see the way I was acting out. It was very confusing, and obviously the arrest with mum I can remember a lot more vividly than the one with dad. Yeah. It was kind of actually something like you'd see in the movies, like where the police kind of all rushed in and ripped the house apart. And I just remember that, the house being torn apart, and then the next minute mum was gone, so.
And you're sitting there, probably police looking after you initially.
As far as
people
I can
you've
remember,
these are the people that you, from an early age, you've probably feared because
exactly.
they come storming
right.
into your house.
Yeah.
What was done with you at that point?
So I stayed with different family members for a while. Yeah. Some of which were better than others at caring for me. Mm. One was an auntie who was actually really good, and that was kind of a stable period, I guess. She really cared for me, and which I look back on with some fondness. Yeah. And another was a grandparent who wasn't. So, it wasn't a good environment. Yeah.
When you say that, what type of things were happening?
Just a bit neglectful, which messes a little kid's head up, And it's expected because that was the same person that, had kind of, had been abusive to mum as well growing up, so
Right.
it makes sense that he wasn't going to be great with me.
Again, this is the type of things that just carry on from generation
It does.
to generation.
Yeah.
How long did you go back to your mum after she got out of prison?
Yeah, I did. So she did some time in prison and then went to rehab for a little bit, and then we got back together. Kind of interesting story. She was actually meant to do a little bit more time than that, but there was the Minister for Corrections at the time. I don't know if you remember Rex Jackson, I think his name was. Yeah. So there was a thing where, and I can say this now, she's passed, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But so the people she was working for paid him off to have her sentence reduced. So
okay, as bizarre as that sounds, my recollection of the historical situation, Rex Jackson was the Corrective Services
that's the one,
minister, and I think he ended up getting exposed for taking money for early release
That's
of
what
prisoners.
happened,
and
so
yeah.
She benefited from that, thankfully, for mum.
Okay, she was the one that
she was one of the ones that benefited,
achieved
which was
well,
good for me.
the fact that she was connected to people, had the ability to reach out to the minister, tells you the sort of way she was living a life.
It sure does. Yeah.
So the period of 5 to 12. Talk us through.
There was look, at that period, I really looked up to mum at that point.
Yeah.
She was more like an older sister than a mum to me. I never called her mum. I always called her by her first name.
Right.
I never referred to her as mum ever. And not until as an adult. You know? And I looked up to her, but she really suffered. Like, she really suffered with addiction. She had like a terrible car accident and had a lot of chronic pain. And then, all the abuse and stuff that she had as a kid. And growing up, I blamed her so much,
Some anger there?
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, why doesn't she love me the way I see other people being loved, or the way you think a parent's meant to love you?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was older and had my own problems
that you realised.
And I went, oh, okay. So she was just when I thought she was an adult, she was in her 20s.
Yeah.
And she was really suffering too. And that doesn't mean that the neglect and abuse didn't happen, but it just means I understand.
You understand where it's coming from.
Yeah.
What about schooling? Did you have regular schooling? Did you have?
Not really. School was pretty. So we moved around a lot.
Yeah. Still around the Wollongong
area?
Yeah,
Wollongong and ACT, but every 6 months we'd move. When you were selling drugs, you moved regularly because people would know where you lived.
Yeah.
So you'd have to move regularly.
Okay.
So for us, we moved every 6 months because of that, really. And that was either generally to a completely different area. Yeah.
Did you have any role models? Anyone that showed you love and direction?
Not really. Like my grandmother really cared for me a lot. But yeah, that was something I definitely struggled with, and especially male role models. There was none.
Devoid.
Yeah, and that was something that I definitely struggled with growing up, trying to find my identity as a male. Yeah.
Yeah. So moving around comes with its own inherent complications. Not being able to form friendships and relationships and that. Your submission that you did to the parliamentary inquiry, as I said at the start, it was very powerful, and I'm going to read a couple of things out from there because I just think it, and then I'll get you to talk about it. Okay. And I'm looking at my notes here, and I said that I'm reading through this. It just made me sad, disappointed, and even angry. So,
very cool.
From the submission that you made to Parliament.
Yeah.
I was only 12 when I was arrested for the first time for minor property damage. By then, I'd already been failed by schools, child services, police, and adults I had trusted. Multiple opportunities to get me the help I needed had been missed. I remember when I was first arrested, I was living in a tin shed in a backyard with a pile of blankets for a bed. Police knew I was being abused, but they still returned me to the dangerous home after they arrested me.
That's
heavy.
Yeah. But
talk us through that.
And it's interesting, like, for me, when I hear that, it kind of doesn't seem like anything to me.
Yeah.
And then I have to try and think about what that sounds like to other people, you know, and I think about my friends who have got young kids that are the same age now, you know, and I look at them and that's when it really hits me, when I see another 12-year-old and I go, fuck, can I swear? So I'm like, fuck, they're just a little kid, you know, and like for me, the reason that I was in that shed was because it was unsafe in the house, you know, so that was actually that was a place of refuge for me to go to. Yeah, I felt very unwelcome in the home. So for me, that was a place of refuge.
The tin shed with a pile of blankets for a bed. Yeah. What concerns me is that police knew I was being abused, but they still returned me to a dangerous home after they arrested me. Yeah. Not blaming individuals. I'm talking the system here. Yeah. It is a failing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like I look at it and think, okay, why have we got this so wrong?
And you know what? And sometimes when I used to think about it, I thought, oh well, maybe this is because that was back then. Things are different now.
Yeah.
And I'd think, oh well, that only happened because it was, you know,
different
30 years
rules.
ago, different time.
Yeah.
And then now working in the industry I'm working in, and realizing it hasn't changed, you know. Yeah. And even though people know that things should be done better and that children should be cared for, the same thing's still happening. You know, we're still locking up hundreds of kids and putting them in prison. Yeah. And we're not caring for the children that actually need to be cared for. And like I said, we're punishing them. And for me, that in the way the police took me back to that environment, that was punishment. Yeah. You know, because I was told you're a bad person, you're doing something wrong. And you need to change your behaviour.
And it's almost a cry for help, and it would be so confusing. And that's what makes me sad, thinking of what's the mind of a 12-year-old. Yeah. And when the narrative is let's crack down on crime and all that.
That's right.
What hope has a child got growing up in an environment like that with no role models? Being abused, and I can imagine the type of people that your mum would have been attracting coming in, and it's just I saw that in policing. I saw the horrible results in homicide, that the new man coming into the environment.
It's true.
Just has a dislike for the
Absolutely.
For the kids.
Yeah.
It's almost like that animalistic animal kingdom, like lions killing off the
it's true
the cubs of the other lions.
It's true, because no man wants to support another man's child. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they're seen as a threat, and it's kind of biological.
Well, not not good men, or not.
That's right. That's true.
Proper men. I read out another quote again because it's so powerful. Yeah. 6 months later, I was found by police living on the streets, forced to starve to escape from further abuse at home, but no support was provided to me. There was no curiosity from police about why such a young child would choose the streets over shelter, no questions about what was going on for me, and no attempt to make sure I had food and a safe place to sleep. Police returned me to an environment they knew was dangerous. I was immediately violently assaulted.
Yeah, it was repetitive, you know, and it happened. I could barely even count how many times. You know, I remember another time being taken home by the police and being punched in the face in front of the police.
In front of the police.
You know, and that was acceptable. You know, because I was, like I said, I was a bad person, and I think that, you know, and I as an adult, I don't hate police, and even as a in my 20s, I never had that kind of feeling of hatred towards police. As a kid, I definitely did. Yeah. You know, and it was what I was taught. You know,
the environment.
Absolutely, I was taught to do that. But I understand that when you're interacting with people, even if they are children, and that person swears at you and tells you to fuck off and calls you names, and you just see them and you see their behaviours, it's understandable at face value to not like that person. Yeah. You know, because you go, this seems like a bad person. But I think it does take effortful curiosity to go, why is this person doing what they're doing? And I don't know if that's something that is taught in policing or not,
Well,
but it needs to be.
Yeah, you've made me reflect, and I think that there's times when early in my policing where I would have taken kids home and I can hear the parents yelling at the kid or whatever, but there was a judgment call. I would hope to think that, okay, well, this is normal discipline.
Yeah.
But the curiosity, well, hold it, why is he running away the whole time? Yeah. And, we talk about child sexual abuse, and you're not saying that, but I look back and think of all these troubled kids and wonder what you've been inside. You've been in prison, and you see how many people are in there, men and women, because of something that's happened to them in the past.
Definitely. Yeah.
But, the role of policing, protect or prosecute, 12-year-old kid.
It's true.
It's a hard thing.
Yeah, and that was something, I don't know if you wanted to touch on it, but that second time when they took me back, I'd literally just been sexually assaulted, so
right.
So I'd gone back out onto the streets, you know, and because I thought that was safer than being at home, and I was trying to escape what was going on at home, and I'd been missing for months, and the police had been looking for me for some time, and no one knew where I was, and I ended up at a refuge, like a children's refuge.
Yep.
Yeah, and some young boys took me out to the park and got me drunk, and one of them, sexually abused me.
Right.
And then going back to the refuge, a couple of days later, the people at the refuge found out that police were looking for me.
Yeah.
And basically said to me, like, you need to go back home. Will you go back home? And me at that age saying, I'm not going to go back home.
Yeah.
But I told them I'd go back home. And they gave me a bus fare and said, okay, make your way back home.
And how old were you?
I was 12.
12.
Yeah, and so I just ran again, basically. And then it was probably about a month after that police found me.
Yeah.
And again, there was like, if ever there was a time where there should have been some, curiosity into what's going on and what's happened to this kid, like after being missing for months, and I didn't see a doctor, I didn't see a psych, no one.
I was going to ask you that. I was just thinking, how would police deal with that? Okay, we've called a runaway kid.
Yeah.
And it was always about, okay, from a policing point of view, and it doesn't sound good when I say it, from a policing point of view, how can we take our responsibility away from this? Where can we put the kid not to be further harmed, put the kid safe? But I can't recall in all my time in policing someone saying, hey, we need a psychologist to sit down and have a chat with this child.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think we've got a little bit wiser now.
I hope so. Yeah.
But I see how it just it catches up.
Yeah.
A couple of things that I pick up on that.
Sure.
Your father's lawyer advised you not to seek bail when you're in detention at one stage because it was safer being on the streets.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Well, again, so this was after. This is a bit later on in life now, so about 15, 16, and I was homeless again.
Yep.
And at that point I was literally starving, and I'm not even joking, like I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Like, I was living in a squat with a bunch of other guys, and we had zero money, and we were it was like a really intense and desperate sort of situation that we were living in, and we're also really, really angry, and we all felt like the system had failed us, and that, we thought that it was everyone else's fault, and and so we'd done some break and enters to steal food, and then we did a robbery, myself and about 4 other guys did a robbery, and it was a horrible situation, a horrible thing to do. I'm not going to say situation. It was something
robbery,
we did.
like an assault and robbery?
Yeah, an assault and robbery,
Someone on the street or a store?
No, it was a store, And, we went in the morning, a news agent, and... Yeah, I'll tell the story. It's it's definitely not something I'm proud of at all, you know. But we walked in and I punched him, you know, thinking I was going to knock him out, and then we were just going to take the money and cigarettes and whatever else was there, and but he didn't get knocked out straight away, you know. And then one of the other fellows I was with just really gave it to him, you know. And we robbed a place and then we left, and it wasn't long after that we were arrested, and I think it was pretty obvious that maybe we'd had something to do with it because we'd been causing so much trouble in that neighbourhood for some time, you know. And so we were arrested, and that's when I went into juvenile the first time, you know, and that's when my dad's lawyer. I'd reached out to my dad. I really wasn't in contact with him very much, but I knew he had a lawyer, and you know, so I reached out.
Had he been in and out?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He's probably maybe 20 years all up, for robbery and fraud and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And, so I reached out to him, and he just said, look, you're better off staying in there because you've got nowhere to live, you know, so it's better just to stay where you are, you know. And I can kind of see where he was coming from. Yeah. Because look at where I was. I had no food. I had nothing.
Tell us about, give a sense, because most people, we hear of, you know, kids living on the street and all that. Yeah. But tell us about your experience. Like, okay, you've got nowhere to go. Yeah. You're 12, 13, 14, it doesn't matter. Yeah. The world's a scary place.
Sure is.
And when the sun goes down and everyone's gone to their home, talk us through your thinking and the life of a kid on the street.
I'll say the first thing, and this is like something that like pervades every moment of every day, is the loneliness. Yeah. You know, like you're very, very lonely because you know that something that is needed is missing. You know, you don't have the care and the love that you're meant to have. Yeah. So you feel very alone. Besides like what's going on an emotional level, you're looking to do anything you can do to take that feeling away, which generally is drugs and alcohol. Yeah. When it comes to what you do at night time, you're looking for somewhere warm to sleep, you know, and somewhere safe to sleep. And generally, you find other kids to hang out with, you know, not adults, because they're more dangerous, you know, so you find other kids to hang out with.
And just on that, you know the adults are dangerous because they'll take advantage of you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They could do anything to you, you know, so...
and where do you find these kids?
Around, like...
I know the homeless kids always seem to gravitate.
They do, yeah.
And how do you find them, each other?
I'm guessing it's like just networking, you know, you see other kids and you recognise each other, you know, as being homeless, and someone will kind of take you under their wing. You know, when a new kid comes onto the street, other kids will kind of take them under their wing and you know, come and say, live with us, and they teach you how to survive. And you know, for me at 12, that was learning things like sleeping under trees at night because it was warmer, you know, or sleeping underneath cars to keep the rain or the cold off. And these are things that a normal kid that has a home doesn't know to do. Yeah. Yeah. So.
And I would imagine Wollongong, Canberra, during the winter.
Yeah, this was Canberra. It was freezing. It was cold. Yeah. So
you could seriously die out
there.
Yeah,
it was freezing.
There.
Yeah.
So, how many people did you gravitate or hang around with?
Usually there'd be points we'd be nearly a dozen of us. Yeah. Yeah, like between a dozen, and you'd usually kind of pair up. Yeah. You know, you'd find a mate or something, and that'd be your buddy that you'd kind of rely on, and you'd really rely on each other. Yeah.
Did you have to like break into houses or factories or shops to find a place to sleep?
Absolutely,
I would imagine that would be
absolutely
an attractive option.
And it was hard in the city because there's less of that kind of thing to get into.
Vacant.
Yeah. Sometimes, like one of the older kids would go and try and rent a property, which we knew no one would rent to them, but then we'd leave windows open and then go at night and break in and sleep and then try and get out before anyone came back in the morning. That was probably the nicest place to sleep. Yeah, if we could ever do that. Yeah. Otherwise, it was just stairwells and that kind of thing. Yeah, car park stairwells. Yeah.
People would, you'd start to see a group like that, and did you have anyone other than the police pay attention to you from a way of helping you guys?
No, and that's the most bizarre thing when I look back. You know, we would spend so much time at youth centres in the daytime.
Yeah.
You know, because they were like a place to hang out and that was accepting of us in the daytime. But not once did anyone reach out to me and say, like, have you got somewhere to live tonight?
Yeah.
You know, it was like at 5 o'clock the doors shut and their job was over.
And you were carrying your worldly possessions.
Yeah, all in a bag. Yeah.
In a bag.
Yeah.
And no source of income?
None. Yeah, other than shoplifting and selling whatever I could shoplift, yeah.
So the life you're painting isn't very attractive, but you're saying that was a better option than being at home.
It was, yeah. And that's I guess that's the most tragic thing, isn't it? That was a better option.
Yeah.
And it actually was. Yeah, I mean, the sexual assault definitely made it not a better option. Yeah. You know, but even all the other
sexual assault stemmed from you being in a
youth refuge, but because I was homeless. Yeah.
Right, and then there was someone there to look after you that sexually assaulted you.
No, it was one of the other kids.
Other kids.
Yeah, one of the other older boys there. Yeah.
I suppose they're
probably
acting out.
There's probably stuff's happening to them as well. Yeah,
they've learnt
exactly, and that really messed with me.
Any of the people that you were associated back then didn't make it through, or
absolutely a lot.
Give us an example about
that. Was so common to, even as a young teenager, and to know that people were going to be dying. You know, that was like really common, and it was expected that you would go in a year's time that person might not be alive. I remember one really sad one was there was a young boy down in Wollongong who there was a big thing down in Wollongong at the time where it was one of the ex-mayors down there, Frank Arkell.
Yeah.
He'd been involved in child sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And
I remember when he was murdered.
That's right. So I knew those boys who did that.
Right.
Yeah. I knew one of them.
Yeah.
From that time when I was on the street,
Mm.
And so one of the boys that he'd done that to killed himself, and hung himself under a bridge, So it was you just knew that some kids just couldn't take it.
Yeah.
It was just too much for some people.
And that's not the type of thing you should feel that is part of the world.
That's true, yeah.
At that time, and then you've got someone like the Frank Arkell, supposedly a person in the position of power.
So much power.
Yeah. Well, he met a gruesome death.
He sure did. Yeah. And the sad thing is, those boys that did it still went to jail, and ultimately they're the ones who still suffered. Which is really sad.
Did any of the kids progress through it and then come back and say, "Hey, there's another way"? I'm trying to clutch on that.
I hope so.
But did you get any role models that sort of?
Not back then. It was too, I continue moving around a lot, and I've lost contact with most people. I think back to those kids sometimes, and wonder how they went, and I really hope they did.
Yeah.
Because we're like a little family,
How, looking back at those times, what are the things that could have put a circuit breaker in the direction your life was heading in? What do you think could have made a difference?
Yeah, sure. So, and I guess this is like the things I'm about to say now is the same for the other kids currently that are going through the same thing, and it's like wraparound community services, to firstly to provide accommodation if they need accommodation, if it's kids that are homeless, if it's kids that have just left home and finding out what's going on at home. Is it a problem where the parents are the problem, or is it something else? And if it's something else, can we get them back home?
Yeah.
It's like, supporting them if they've got mental health stuff going on, because a lot of the kids running away have got mental health, or maybe they're realising that they're queer.
Yep.
And their parents aren't accepting, and that's a lot of homeless kids are like that, because their parents are unaccepting of that, and their parents kick them out. So it's not even that they're running away; they're actually kicked out.
Well, the parents are loading shame on them and
exactly,
and guilt. And,
you know. So if that's the case, it's getting them into services that understand that and can support them like that.
Yeah.
And it's not criminalising them, and saying that we need to care for them and not criminalise them.
What about you're charged by police, and we've sort of had a look at how the police handle it.
Yep.
But then it goes to court. There's another opportunity for the system to really go, hold it, what's going on here? In fact, it's probably set up better than the police.
Absolutely.
Did you find anyone, when you kept appearing before the court, did anyone...
I had a juvenile justice officer who was actually really good.
Yeah.
And he... When I say he was good, I felt like he genuinely cared, which was something that no one else did, and that meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
That's
something new
it
too.
really meant a lot. Yeah. And it's something I carried with me for a long time as something that really had helped.
Yeah.
But that care could only go so far, and it's not like I could move in with him. You know what I mean? So I still needed somewhere to live, and I was. Going to crisis refuges. That's where I'd been bailed to crisis refuges.
Yeah.
But for me, my experience in the refuge I went to at that time, it was really like it was like triage. It was like we'll just try and manage things, but not actually heal anything.
Okay.
And
that's interesting. So there's an attempt, but from a person that's been through that, didn't think it delved deep
It wasn't
enough.
enough. It wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And for me personally, and this isn't the case for all people going into this kind of situation, but it's definitely something to be mindful of. It's who are you employing to look after these kids?
Yeah.
Because for me, that was another time where I was abused again. So.
Talk us through that. What happened there?
So, I was living in this crisis refuge, and there was counselling made available to all the kids there, which on the face of it seems like a really good thing, you know, and in the right circumstances could have been a good thing.
Yeah.
But for me, this counsellor basically groomed me from the start, and. And I'd opened up to him about the assault that had happened with me, you know, and that, and he was actually the first person I told about it, and I opened up to him and let him know that like I was questioning my sexuality and stuff. So I really opened up to this guy, and he just really took advantage of that, and that led to more abuse. Yeah.
That's because if you're that way inclined as a predator to abuse kids, it's just the perfect environment, isn't it? Vulnerable
exactly.
Kids or teenagers coming into an environment like that.
Yeah.
What did that do for your trust of the system? And
that caused so many issues for me growing up, and it really, really stuck with me.
Yeah.
Firstly, it meant that I was acting out, and so my behaviour had gone from bad to worse.
Yeah. Becoming
violent? Yeah. I was already had a very short temper and prone to violence.
Yeah.
But now it was just gone to another level where anything anyone would do or say, I would just react, and breaking windows around the refuge and breaking things and screaming at people and threatening people. And obviously they're not going to accept that kind of behaviour, and basically just exited me immediately.
Then you're back out.
So then I was back homeless again and breaking bail, and, and I suppose the staff at the time weren't to understand what was going on with me. They just seeing my behaviours.
What... at that point in time, with
Yep.
all the damage, and I say it's damage that's been done to you at that point in time, because we've still got you in that 15, 16 age
Yeah,
bracket.
that's right. Yep.
Is there any way or anything that you think could have stepped in to,
I think so.
steer you around? What would you propose? Like, because I bring it back to what we started about.
Yeah.
Like, let's get tough on crime,
Yeah.
and we could look at you and look at your history and go,
Put him in jail.
you've had your chances, buddy.
Absolutely.
You're inside.
Yeah, and I could see that because I was a threat to the people around me.
Yeah,
right?
and that is a public sentiment, and we touched on it earlier. That they're scared, they're worried about crime. So you can understand where they're coming
100%,
from.
I can.
But
Yeah,
let's just take a step back and look at it from a different way. What could have been done for you at that stage that may have made a difference?
and I think before I say what I think could be done, I think when you see a young person whose behaviour is so bad and they are acting up so much, and the ones that we're saying, like, this kid is so bad, we're going to put them in jail.
Yeah.
You know? There's about 200, bit over 200 kids in jail currently.
In
New
when
South
we
Wales.
say jail,
I'm in prison, children's prison.
Children's prison. Yeah.
Yep. So there's about 240 or something like that kids in New South Wales prison. Those are the kids that, if it gets to that point, they're the ones that we say, okay, something's gone wrong here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is not normal for it to progress this far.
Yeah.
So they're the ones where we go, okay, these are the ones that really need care.
Yeah.
And I think the only way to turn a child like that around, and they are children.
Yeah.
We've got to remember, like, we're talking about children.
Yeah, I know.
I know you know that.
We forget that.
Yeah, they're children.
Yeah.
Right.
When you look back at I look back at my life and think I thought I knew what the world was at 16. I knew jack shit.
It's true. Yeah.
Even when you're early 20s, you still don't know what life's about. So we'll hold on to that thought that we're talking children here.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a child that has gone off the rails for a whole range of reasons, and you've given by way of an example why you went off, which to me seems perfectly normal. If I went through what you went
anyone
through,
would.
I'd be doing what
That's
you were
right.
doing, I would imagine.
That's true. There's two things that will happen. You'll either really push back like I did, or you'll kill yourself.
Yeah, you'd just be completely broken.
That's the two options, you know.
Yeah.
And
so getting back to what we could do.
Yeah. So I think that's a perfect example of, we need to care for that kid, that child.
Yeah.
You know, and there's already some services operating in. I know there's one in Redfern called Weave, I think.
Yeah.
That's got some really good statistics on and results.
Yep.
And reducing recidivism of young people down to, like, really, really, like, single digits.
Yep.
Compared to, like, above 50% recidivism, and we need services that are culturally appropriate. A lot of these kids that are going in are Indigenous kids, so it needs to be culturally appropriate.
Yep.
And it needs to be genuine care. And like when I look at that juvenile justice officer I had, he genuinely cared, and that made a difference.
Yeah.
So we need genuine care, and the support needs to match what that child needs. So that's it is psychological. A big part of it is therapy, if that's what they need, and it's connecting them to community in a healthy way, giving them role models, other people that have made it out, and modelling good behaviour. It's, showing them that there's another possibility, and that there's another future if they're able to put one foot in front of the other, get them back to school, and maybe they need a tutor, but it's a lot. They need a lot of care. But it's cheaper than sending them to prison.
Fiscally, like if we just sold it on financially viable, a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
I see the work that Shane Phillips does with Tribal Warrior and Clean Slate Without Prejudice, and like they've been doing that for a long time, and it's been working, and it changing lives.
Yeah.
But
there's another one, Healing the Warrior, and that's doing great stuff as
well.
All
those ones are doing it, and I know they run on the smell of an oily rag half the time.
It's true.
So when we talk about money, and we need Vince here or Claude because they've got all
the
the
stats.
they've got all the stats and
It's
figures.
true,
We'll dial back to them.
Yeah,
But I think I've heard the figure of something like $200,000 a year to keep a child in custody.
I think it's more than that.
Yeah, well, okay, I was aiming high because I think
it's more than that.
Yeah, because I was surprised how it was a lot higher than keeping an adult in custody for 12 months. So, okay, let's throw in $250,000 for each child in custody. Yeah. Boy, a lot could be provided with money instead of having one child in custody. And then the chances of being in a juvenile detention centre, the likelihood of them going into adult prison.
It's very, very likely.
Yeah.
I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but it's more than 50%. I think it's about 80%.
Yeah, I think it's up that high. So,
and I just want to mention one thing too, just in case people don't realise that the age of criminal responsibility in New South Wales currently is 10 years old.
Yes, yeah,
10 years old. So what 10-year-old knows the difference between right and wrong to start with? And if they've got all this stuff going on at home and they've got all these other issues going on, how can they make sound decisions and then be responsible for their behaviour?
And you hear campaigning, and I think it's Queensland more so than New South Wales, but talking about lowering the age of criminal culpability.
I think so. I'm not sure.
And for 10, so you can't be charged under 10, but you can be charged over 10 if you're over 10 years of age if you knew what you did was wrong. So I think that goes up to 14.
Yeah.
But you put a kid. You've changed my thinking in that protection or prosecution, and just that one sort of sentence makes a big difference, doesn't it?
It does.
Because
it does.
And I'm looking from I've still got the cop gene running through me.
Yeah.
Okay, if they've done the crime, we're going to lock them up, put them before the courts, and then move on to the next one. But
because you want to. And it's a system we trust, and we put trust in that system to do the right thing, to keep us safe. There's that idea that when people are dangerous, we want them out of the community,
And like the crime that you said that you're embarrassed by, like a crime like that happened now, that would be on the front page of the paper.
Absolutely,
and there'd probably be video images of
that's right.
Four of you storming into a newsagent with a balaclavas on and assaulting the shop owner. It'd be the lead story.
Yeah.
But when you did it, it would have. I don't think
it was a newspaper. That was it.
Yeah, it would have just got a mention. Okay, so we're saying there should be a better way.
Yeah, and
I look at. I see these. And people say, oh, why are you rewarding people for being bad? Where you see kids being taken out to the bush, to
camps and all this stuff.
And learn respect with good people.
Yeah.
I see benefits in that type of thing. I don't. If a kid that's a troubled kid, and if we start looking at it, not a bad kid, a troubled kid, we're putting effort into steering them in the right direction. It has to be beneficial.
Agreed. And when they say like rewarding bad behaviour, I don't think there's any kid that is going to do some kind of crime, then get taken on a camp, and then put two and two together and go, I was rewarded for that.
Yeah,
they're separate things. Do you know what I mean? And
that's true. You're not smart
they're going to
enough
look at they're going to look at it as a separate thing, and they're just going to take it for what it is.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this before coming in, and because a lot of people might think this is like a right-left kind of thing, when it comes to
crackdown or
and I actually don't think it's a right-left thing. I try and be a bit. I do try and understand what's happening on both sides of these kind of arguments and try not to argue about it. And for me, I think that even if you don't care about young people or you don't care about disadvantaged people and you just really couldn't give a shit, even if you're like that, it's still not going to help your community to put young people in prison or even adults in prison the way we're doing it now, because the recidivism rates, like the rates of people coming out and going back in, like 50% of people that go to prison go back, once they're released, they go back in within 12 months.
Yeah.
If they're going back in, that means they're committing another crime. So we're trying to, we've heard that saying, police your way out of crime or punish your way out of crime. It just does not work.
You can't. I agree, and I say that as spending most of my career in the police. You can't arrest your way out of the crime.
And it's so
crisis.
expensive, right? And I'm not saying stop all prisons. Like I don't believe that. I just think that when people are there, it's an opportunity, even as adults, to turn their life around. Give people a chance to get educated while they're there. Give them a chance so when they come out, they've got the resources and the skills not to go back. Because currently they come out and half are released to homelessness.
Yeah, it makes a lot
no
of
sense.
Makes a lot of sense. And when we're talking kids, if they haven't got the protection that we think all kids deserve, that's where society's got to step up.
Agreed.
Now, people could be listening to this conversation, you and I talking, go, what are these fuckwits on about? Someone will be saying, you've got to crack down if they do the crime, punish them. Okay, it's not about getting tough on crime, it's getting smart on crime.
Agreed. I think it's a really good, I really like that. Yeah.
I'd love to say it was my thoughts, but it didn't. It came from Ken Marslew, whose son was murdered in an armed robbery.
Wow.
He formed Enough is Enough. Ken's sadly passed away.
Yeah.
But I would often have these discussions with him because when his son was murdered, he was the one marching on Parliament demanding for mandatory sentencing and this should happen, that should happen.
Yeah.
How that evolved over a 20-year period, Ken started to realise, well, hold it, that's, the anger's destroying me.
It's true.
It's not making a difference.
Yeah.
And if we try to prevent crime, that's getting smarter on crime, not getting tougher on crime. And if you get smarter on crime, there's less victims.
That's right, exactly.
So the people that are going to jump on us for saying we're trying to get too soft, we're trying to reduce victims.
And that's exactly the point I'm making, and I'm glad the way you said that really reiterates that, because that's the whole point. We're trying to, even if you don't care about the people doing it, we want a safer community. Everyone wants that.
That's the thing. And one thing I know, if you escalate it, like as a kid, that you're going through, what we were talking about, what could have changed you, steering you in a better way.
Yeah.
But imagine if it came down on you even harder.
Yeah.
How would have you reacted to that?
Absolutely. And I look back and think, fortunately for me, I didn't go to adult prison until I was a lot older. Yeah. And I evaded police for a long time.
Yep.
And I think back to the way I was in my younger years and how angry I was and how, willing I was to fight at the drop of a hat. If I'd gone to prison at that age, I can't imagine what could have happened. I would have been a much more dangerous person than I ended up being, definitely.
Full of anger
absolutely.
And rage and violence
absolutely.
that just explodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's an environment that prison
absolutely.
Can...
because it's a scary, traumatic, horrible place to be. Yeah.
We always... we talk a lot about men and young men.
Yep.
What about women in the situation? Did you see homeless young girls? Are they going through the same thing?
Yeah, and that's like when I was thinking back to the kids that I was living with at that time, and some of the ones I do wonder about were the girls, and girls in that environment are even
more vulnerable.
Way more vulnerable. Yeah. Like vulnerable to sex trafficking, vulnerable to just guys taking advantage of them. A lot of them end up in prostitution. Even me as a young guy at that age, it was like there was a lot of the boys I knew working on the wall in the cross, and that was an option that was put to me. It's like, do you want to come and work? And I chose drug dealing instead.
Right.
And it was kind of the thing because I'd heard Mum make that same choice. So as a young person, it was, did she want to go into sex work? And she chose drug dealing, and I made the same choice. But it could have just gone the other way.
What hope have you got, like really, where you're saying that, one lesson I learnt from Mum, instead of going into prostitution, drug dealing is the more viable option. Yeah. And when I want people to check themselves and think, what did your parents teach you? Yeah, absolutely. And that's right. the environment that you grew up in.
Yeah, and that was her trying to protect me in the world that she knew I was going into,
Did you think that you had a future at all? Like you've said, your friends were dying and killing themselves.
Not at all. And I was I was suicidal for a long, long time. You know, the thoughts of suicide were daily for most of my life, probably until I was about 30.
Yeah.
So I definitely didn't see a future. And it wasn't until around 30 where my mental health got a bit better.
Yeah.
That I kind of, that I could probably even say that I was enjoying life on some level, you know. But I did always have this idea that I was trying to get better and better myself in whatever way that looked like, and it was a very, very slow journey.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, when I say better myself, it doesn't mean I was a good person or making good decisions. I was just trying to be a bit better than I was the day before. But I definitely made a lot of bad decisions on the way, and people around me suffered because of that, and I suffered as well. You know? Yeah.
Drugs and alcohol, was that your...
Not alcohol. I didn't drink, but drugs, and...
That was your escape?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. And I spent some periods without taking drugs, you know. Like, I think the longest I went was 7 years in my 20s. But, for most of my life, drugs was the way I escaped those feelings, especially in my teens and young 20s. Yeah. That was the only thing I knew to do to take that deep loneliness away.
Yeah. Just winding back to the options, with kids. Mm-hmm. If you and I got $250,000 to spend, there's a kid sitting at the end of the table that's 13, his life's off track. Mm-hmm. What do we do with that money to make that make a difference to that young fella's life?
And I think, from me, you know, I'm not an expert in this. Yep. But I know that there are services that have put a lot of thought into this, and from what I've read recently, they're talking like $100,000 a year, not even $250,000 a year. That they feel like they can really make a difference and an impact on that child's life, and prevent them from going back into prison, and give them a real shot. And like I said, a big part of that is getting them back into school, because every child should be at school. You know?
We haven't really delved into that. But I think you went to 15 different schools.
I did, yeah.
You haven't got much chance of education there, and I'm sure it wasn't your priority. But
it wasn't.
How much difference can education, because it's self-esteem and everything that comes into play there.
Absolutely. And I think self-esteem is a big part of this the problem, I guess, or what's going on with young people and the adults they become, because that lack of self-esteem is such a hindrance on being able to make positive moves, you know. And when you're a person who, when you look at yourself and all you see is failure, you know, and you're told you're a failure, you're told you're a bad person, and you don't have any experiences of succeeding or finishing something, you know. I can't remember finishing anything until I was an adult, like way into my adulthood. Yeah,
it doesn't give you much self-esteem, does it?
And you just think you're not capable, you know. And that, I think, for people who haven't had that kind of experience, they don't understand how crippling that is. Yeah. And, you know, when you see both young people and adults coming out of prison, and people say, why don't they just get a job? Why do they keep going back? Why do they keep making the same mistakes? Yeah. So much of that is self-esteem and the fact that they don't have experience of doing something well and finishing something. And, you know, it doesn't take much. A few little wins can really turn
big difference.
You know, really little things can make a difference. It might be completing something that takes a week to do, and you can hold on to that. Yeah, and it can really make a difference.
Look, I can achieve something.
I can do it,
And because life's hard enough even when you've got a stable family around you, and what you've been through. We might take a break now and let the listeners and viewers ponder on the life that you've led
Yep.
up until this point.
Yep.
When we get back, we'll talk about your adulthood,
Okay.
your journey into prison, which
Okay,
I don't
sure,
think
yeah.
that'll come as a surprise. I just plucked that out of the air that you're going to end up in prison.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But then the way that you've turned your life around, the work that
Yeah.
Discovering what was on offer with Rainbow Lodge, and
Absolutely.
there's so many other things
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that.
talk about. So
Awesome. Thank
we'll
you.
Take a break.
Thanks, Gary. Awesome.
Cheers.
Thank you.